Welcome to Tabletop Gaming with Juice. I am Juice, and today we will be talking about the 7th chapter of the brand new Dungeon Master's Guide. Now, this chapter is all about treasure, and there is a lot of it, first of all. So let me get to the beginning of the chapter real quick. But 5th edition does magic items a little differently than in the past. For example, in the past, you'd have items that went up to a +5, for example, to hit, and a +5 to armor class and all that kind of stuff. The treasure in 5th edition goes up to a +3. Okay. I like this. It doesn't make such varying numbers and things like that. Also, the encounters and the monsters that you face and the CR levels are not based on magic items. You don't need magic items throughout your campaign to be on par with the CR levels. So that is something to keep in mind as well. But anyways, this chapter, okay, starts off with the types of treasure you can earn, okay? Some of the types of treasure are obviously coins, gemstones, art objects, and then magic items, which I just touched on a little bit. It gives you a bunch of random treasure in here. Talks about treasure tables, using the individual treasure tables, and using the treasure hoard tables. So those are kind of neat, the way they do them. But I'll get to that here in a second. So after it talks about using those, it jumps into gemstones, and it offers you a wide variety that you can roll. These are all tables that you can roll dice for to give it some variety and mix things up. So for example, under 10 GP gemstones, so 10 gold gemstones, it's got 12 different ones. It gives you the name of the type and then a brief description. So for example, malachite, opaque, wow, I can't even say the word, striated, light and dark green. So gives you a brief description of it. Kind of cool. So you have 10 gold gemstones, 50, 100, 500, 1,000, 5, and 5,000 gold gemstones. So various types of stones that you can use, even just to flavor up some of your weapons or your rings or things like that. You can always just come here and say you find a ring with a fire opal gemstone or an amber gemstone, a black sapphire gemstone. You get the idea. Okay. Then it goes into art objects. And again, it breaks it down by price. So for instance, a 25 gold art object might be a carved bone statuette or a small gold bracelet. A 7,500 gold art object might be something like a jeweled gold crown, which again, then you can go to the gemstones and say, these are the gems that are in it. A bejeweled ivory drinking horn with gold filigree. So you get the idea. So you can spruce up your magic with just these 2 pages, or your treasure with just these 2 pages. I like that. Then it goes into magic items, and it starts talking about rarity. So for magic items, they come in common rarity, uncommon, rare, very rare, and legendary. Okay, so there's 5 tiers. They do have a value associated with them, and they do have a character level that is recommended. Okay, so common and uncommon are 1st or higher, rare is 5th, very rare is 11th, and legendary is 17th. So it's basically telling you at 3rd level you shouldn't be giving your characters very rare magic items. That's all. It's just a suggestion. You can do what you want. Then it talks about buying and selling, and it has mechanics for buying and selling your magic items, which I believe I went over in the last chapter. But it talks a little bit about that. It talks about identifying a magic item, which, it mentions you could use the identify spell. That's the fastest way, yada, yada, yada. The thing I like about this, because I don't like giving my players everything about their magic items. I do at low levels most of the time, but it has a variant, and it's called more difficult identification. If you prefer magic items to have a greater mystique, consider removing the ability to identify the properties of a magic item during the short rest and require the identify spell, experimentation, or both to reveal what a magic item does. So that got me thinking, well, maybe, they can't identify it unless, they can figure it out by the clues on the item, or which even then, players might use meta knowledge, so you might choose to have them roll an investigation check. But then you also might, with the identify spell, only let the identify spell identify one property of the magic item. So maybe the magic item is we'll just throw out an example. It's a +1 sword that also gives you lightning damage, so an extra 1d6 lightning damage, and it also is cursed. Okay, so there's 3 main properties to it right there, right? So when they roll, you could then roll a d6 and say the first 2 are for the first property, and you do it behind the screen. And then you tell them, okay, you identify the magic item and this is what you know about it. That's it. So they still don't know everything, and they'll have to use it in order to figure out the other things. So that's just something that got me thinking that how I might do it in the future. But let me know your thoughts below about how to identify magic items and things like that. I'm very curious. The next part talks about attunement. Some magic weapons require attunement. Now, attunement is like bonding between you and your weapon. Or, as I like to think of it, you're getting used to how the weapon works or figuring out how the weapon works. So even though you might know what it does, you still need to figure out how to use it. So that's kind of how I think of attunement instead of just a bonding between a weapon and a person. So then it goes into individual treasure and then the treasure hoard tables. The next page, after talking about attunement and how to do it, it talks about cursed items. Okay. I personally like the idea of cursed items in games. I think it's kind of cool to give a player a really awesome item that they want to use, but then make it cursed in some way. Maybe it alters their alignment. Maybe it forces them to, when they're in battle, they swing at the closest person to them, even if it's a friendly, whatever, something cool. It could be that you are, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? There's all sorts of different things you can do. But anyways, so then it gives you another table at the bottom of there. It's just finishing the treasure hoard tables. And then it goes into magic item categories. So first of all, you can only be attuned to 3 weapons or armor, 3 total objects at a time. Okay. Beyond that, you can have as many magic items as you want, but only 3 you can be attuned to at a time. If you try to do a 4th, it basically doesn't let you. Okay. You can use a magic item that needs attunement, but it's just a regular weapon at that point. No pluses or anything like that. So anyways, magic item categories. You have armor, potions, rings, rods, scrolls, and then weapons. Okay. Oh, staffs, wands, and weapons. Sorry. I figured all that would fall under rods, but you get the point. It does, at the bottom of the page, talk about mixing potions. So if you're already under the effect of one potion, throwing another potion into the mix. So for instance, I just drank a Cure Wounds potion. Well, now I'm going to drink a potion of vitality within a half hour. Well, time to go to the table. Boom. Both potions lose their effects. So for something like that, I might say, oh, well, all those hit points you gained from that Cure Wounds potion are now gone again. Or maybe just the potion of vitality doesn't work. The mixture becomes an ingested poison, all sorts of different things. Potions work normally. One potion works and its effect is permanent and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you get the idea, some fun stuff on there. And it also mentions that wondrous items are a type of magic item as well. Sorry about that. Wearing and wielding items. I think this is where it talks about the attunement. Could be wrong. I think actually it's talking about different sizes. So dwarfs, for example, shouldn't be wearing human, things like that. It has scroll mishaps table. Again, very fun. Basically, if you fail your spell scroll, then boom, one of these things might happen. Multiple items of the same kind, talks about that. Paired items, so for example, you can't wear one boot of elven kind and another boot of super speed or whatever. You have to wear two of the same boot because they're paired items. Otherwise, neither work. Talks about activating items with command words, consumables, things like that, spells, charges. It talks about magic item formulas and how they're basically, if you're using, say you're talking about doing a common item with, like you give someone a common item formula, it's considered an uncommon thing. So the formula is always one tier beyond for the most part. It says this can vary based on your worlds. So just some things to keep in mind. You know, you could have it all formulas very common. It talks about magic item resilience, special features. Has a variant for wands that don't recharge. I kind of like that. I also like the idea of taking away a lot of the charges, like it's been a used item before. I think that's kind of cool. It's a way to let your players dabble with things that maybe they wouldn't normally be able to dabble with, and the fact that it's not infinite and it will eventually be gone is kind of cool. So that's something I might play with my family game. I was thinking about throwing in a wand that has some really amazing spell and it's like 2 charges and it doesn't recharge. I think that would be kind of cool. See what they do with it. But then I have to be prepared for them wiping something out they probably normally wouldn't. So we'll see what happens. All right. So then this is a really cool section right here that I plan on doing some videos with. This next section is basically creating magic items. Okay. So the first table is who created it, or was it intended to use it? So who created it, or was the intended user, basically. And you roll a d20 and you come up with something. The next section is what is a detail from its history? You roll a d8 and you got a history for it. So for instance, we'll just say I rolled it and I came up with drow. So the item, and it gives you basically about it, half the normal weight, some other stuff about it. It's black, it's got webs in honor of Loth. Might function poorly or disintegrate if exposed to sunlight for a minute or more. So that's kind of cool. Oh, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. Oh, thank you. Okay, the next one is what is its history? So it might be a heroic item. A great hero once wielded this item. Anyone who's familiar with the item's history expects great deeds from the new owner. The next chart is what minor property does it have? Compass. The wielder can use an action to learn which way is north. So you can use it as a compass. There's 20 things there. Then what quirk does it have? And this is a 12. There's some fun ones in there. So I thought it was cool. Let's see what would be a good one. Loud. The item makes a loud noise such as a clang, a shout, or a resonating gong when used. So if it was a sword, you could have it just be extremely loud compared to normal. When it cuts something, it's like the cutting of flesh is magnified in sound. Or when it hits metal to metal, it's 4 times as loud as normal. You know, something absurd. You know. So then after that, it jumps into random magic item tables. So this is more just you want to give your players some magic items. Okay, let's roll on these tables. And these are associated with the random individual and random horde tables. So got various tables there. Another page of tables for magic items. And on the bottom of these pages, it's got pictures of them. So you can see the magic items underneath. And it tells you what they are. So for instance, that was Elven Chainmail on that page, and Boots of Speed, and an Arrow of Slaying, Broom of Flying, Bracers of Archery, and a Bardic Instrument. I'm going to try and say it. More magic item tables, and then you actually get into the magic items. Love the magic items. Okay. I've read most of them. I will be honest. I have not read every single one. Every single one, I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be cool to use in this way, in this way, in this way. And I actually was talking about this the other day with somebody who also has the DMG about trying to run a game using the magic items for my inspiration and making a campaign that's built more for the story and not so much of, hey, I'm going to surprise the players with this and that and whatever. It would be something that would be a little bit crafted between all of us instead of just, hey, I'm coming up with this adventure. Who wants to play? You don't know anything about it. So just some thoughts. But anyways, so these magic items, it starts off with some pretty general, a pretty general one like Adamantine Armor. It says it can be medium or heavy armor, can't be hide. So obviously it has to be metal. And it tells you, for example, the suit of armor is reinforced with adamantine, one of the hardest substances in existence. While you're wearing it, any critical hit against you becomes a normal hit. So I thought that was cool. You know, it's not a +1 or anything like that. It just negates critical hits against you. Very, very cool. So anyways, and there's a couple things that are kind of like that in here. Some of the things I like are the animated shield. Almost every page there's something I really like. So I'm just going to, without telling you too much about all of them, I'll stop at certain ones I think are kind of cool. The bag of beans I thought was kind of cool. And it has various results, including one like Jack and the Beanstalk. It's got bead of force. I thought that was kind of cool. Belt of giant strength. And if you decide to make it a storm giant, you could have a player with a, sorry, since I sneezed, my nose is runny. You could have a player with storm giant strength. That's legendary, so they shouldn't have it till level 17 through 20, but that's a 29 strength. That is amazing. That's like a +9, I think, to, I feel like looking that up because that's pretty amazing. I think it's a +9 to damage and to hit. So yeah, I just can't imagine. Yeah, +9. If somehow you get a 30, so I wish you could. Maybe you just bump it 1 just because to make it a +10. That's ridiculous. Plus your proficiency mod to hit, so now you're at like a +16 to hit. Whew. Yikes. Scary. But anyway, so I thought that one was cool. What else were really cool? Bracers of defense were cool. While wearing these bracers, you gain a +2 bonus to AC if you are wearing no armor and using no shield. So instead of using a shield, you'd use these bracers, and you get a +2. That would allow you to use a great axe, great sword, maul, you know, things like that, and still get your bonus to armor class. Let's see. The ones where you can summon things are cool, such as the Bowl of Commanding Water Elementals. I like the Bracers of Archery. You get a +2 bonus to damage rolls on ranged attacks made with such items. I thought that was a cool one. This one over here does not say that you don't need, or that you can't wear a sheet, or can't wear armor and can't wear a shield. So that one is cool because you could still be in your leather armor or whatever. So that one I thought was really cool. Brazier of Commanding Fire Elementals. Oh, Brooch of Shielding. While wearing this brooch, you have resistance to force damage, and you have immunity to damage from the magic missile spell. So nothing game breaking. It just negates magic missiles. So I thought that was cool. A Broom of Flying for witches or players. So see, I'm reading like a lot of stuff, but there's so many different things in here that are just awesome. You know, different cloaks you can wear. Yeah, I like the Cloak of the Bat. This is one I was talking about with somebody. While wearing this cloak, you have advantage on dex or stealth checks in an area of dim light or darkness. You can grip the edges of the cloak with both hands and use it to fly at a speed of 40 feet. If you ever fail to grip the cloak's edges while flying in this way, or if you are no longer in dim light or darkness, you lose this flying speed. So as soon as you hit regular light or somebody spots you with light, you are no longer able to fly. While wearing the cloak in an area of dim light or darkness, you can use your action to cast Polymorph on yourself, transforming it into a bat. While you are in the form of the bat, you retain your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores. The cloak can't be used this way again until the next dawn. You can freaking change into a bat. It's almost like vampire abilities, in a sense. You know, I thought that was sweet. And the fact that you get advantage on dex checks for stealth, or stealth checks, I thought that was awesome. Cloak of the Manta Ray. You can swim, basically. Awesome. Yeah. This one was cool. Darren's Instant Fortress. I thought that one was cool. One of the cool things is you could throw this between a bunch of monsters. Say you're about to camp for the night and you're fighting like 8 things that are huddled together. Boom, you throw it in the middle of them, say your command word, and they have to make a DC 15 saving throw. Otherwise, they take 10, well, they're going to take 10d10 bludgeoning damage. Wow. On a failed save. Or half as much on a successful save. So they're still taking it up basically 5d10 damage. That's huge, you know? And then you have this 30-foot, it's a 20 by 20-foot tower with a 30-foot high thing with arrow slits. So camping there tonight, like just go inside and sleep. You're safe. Skip doing a watch. Let's sleep for 6 hours or meditate for 4 or whatever. Boom, done. So I thought that was excellent. Dagger of Venom is cool. Basically, they can add some poison damage to a dagger. It says it's rare, but I feel like it's pretty mild. Got some different decks. I'm not huge into the deck of cards things. They're kind of cool in giving you a random element, but I did get inspiration from one of the cards through this section, though, that I might use for an upcoming game. We will see. Yeah, we will see. It will be interesting. But anyways, Defender. So this is one of my favorite things. It's considered legendary. Excuse me again. It's considered legendary. You can gain a +3 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with this magic weapon. The first time you attack with the sword on each of your turns, you can transfer some or all of the sword's bonus to your armor class. So, for example, it's normally a +3/+3. So, if I'm in battle and I go up to hit something, I can say I'm using +0, right? All right, so now my turn's done, right? So now that monster goes to hit me back. Well, my armor class is a +3 because I didn't use the +3 to the attack and damage. It's now my armor class. Or I could have said +1 to hit and damage, and now my armor class is +2. You know, so it divvies up however you decide at the time you attack until your next turn. I like that. I think it was pretty cool. So, anyways, that's one of my favorite items in here. Demon armor I like. Dimension shackles are cool. Talks a little bit about dragon scale mail. And it's interesting how they do that. The Dragon Slayer sword, a staple for fantasy games. It's considered rare. It's a +1 sword, but it adds extra damage when you hit a dragon with it. The different dusts are cool. So the dust of disappearance, sneezing and choking, dryness. Very cool stuff. The Afridi bottle. Basically, it's like a genie in a bottle with 3 different outcomes that can happen. The different statues are always cool. Elemental gems are cool. Has different glasses. Elven chain. But the little stone statues you can get are really awesome. They have some specific swords like the Flame Tongue and the Frost Brand. that I like. I really like the Gem of Brightness. Giant Slayer axe could be any sword or axe, so it's just called Giant Slayer. Much like the Dragon Sword, it adds extra damage to giants, and some other stuff. So awesome stuff. Like, you can, just looking in here, you can take things out of this to apply to your adventures and change the whole dynamic of your game. Whether it's you have an idea for something you want to happen in a few levels, so you go, okay, I'm going to give them this item because it's perfect for this type of adventure. I love doing things like that, where you give them something now that they can't use for a few adventures, or you give them something now that's going to be really useful in a few adventures. And the reason I like doing this is because if they use it early, they might not get the best use out of it. And so then when they really could have used it, it's like, oh crap, we wasted it on that necromancer instead of this. I love doing stuff like that. Or sometimes you just give them something that you really have no plan to ever have something for them to use it against. Like I was saying earlier, you give them a magic wand of some really awesome spell, and whatever they use it on, they use it on. You don't necessarily have a big plan for what it would be perfect for. So you got the Holy Avenger in here, Horn of Blasting, Horn of Valhalla. I mean, a lot of these are common weapons. Like, you've seen these in other editions. Probably most of them, actually, you've seen in other editions or fantasy games, or some version of it. A lot of things, though, that really get me excited, man. And like, these things make me want to play. These make me want to go out and run a game or play in a game in hopes of getting these items. It takes me back to the old days of The Legend of Zelda. And it was like, you started with a sword and a shield, and eventually you got better stuff. I loved The Legend of Zelda, the very first one, where it's like, oh, you got to go and get that better sword, and you got to get the better boomerang, and things like that. Loved it. So, and this really takes me back to all that. Or when I was little, I had for Nintendo and Dungeons and Dragons video game, had a dragon on the cover, and like a guy in like blue armor or something. I'm trying to remember right. And then when you start the game, you don't even have a sword. I think you have to go buy a weapon. Anyways, loved that game. That game was awesome. And then you obviously built yourself up with new stuff. So a lot of these items take me back to that from my childhood, where it was like, oh, let's get better weapons and get better. It was all about getting better and improving. And yeah, video game mentality in an RPG. Sorry. But yeah, okay, so here's a good one. It's got Mithril Armor. Armor, medium or heavy, but not hide. It's considered uncommon. Mithril is a light, flexible metal. A mithril chain shirt or breastplate can be worn under normal clothes. If the armor normally imposes disadvantage on dex checks or has a strength requirement, the mithril version of the armor doesn't. So you could have mithril chainmail, and your people could still do stealth checks, and there would not be a strength requirement. So that's something to keep in mind. Because if your players don't meet the strength requirement of armor, then they lose movement. So that you got to keep that in mind. I know a lot of people have been ignoring that and things like that. Now, if you meet the strength requirement of your armor, you can move your full speed. So as a human, 30 feet, wood elf, 35 feet, whatever. All right. Necklace of Fireballs is pretty cool. Prayer beads. Oath bow. That looks really cool. Let's see. What else might you guys find interesting? They do have a lot of instruments in here. Not a lot, but they have a few instruments for our bardic friends, or anyone who feels like being an entertainer background type of character. They have some good potions that are in here. Let's see. Different types of potions of healing. So you could have the regular potion of healing, 2d4 plus 2, greater healing, 4d4 plus 4, superior healing, 8d4 plus 8, and supreme healing, 10d4 plus 20. Wow. Still really cool, though. Some rings. The rings are really cool. I don't know if any of you use Pinterest, but you can find some cool things for inspiration on there for magic items. Recently, I've got myself set up with Pinterest, and the other night was going through it and found some really awesome inspiration, both for magic items, for monsters, for player characters, settings, all sorts of things. So I highly recommend going and checking out Pinterest for that. All right, so there's the rings. Then it goes into robes. Don't want to give away everything. Gave away a lot early on. Rope of climbing. The rope has an armor class of 20 and 20 hit points. So it's a really durable rope. Rope of entanglement, which we've seen before. Sending stones. Sentinel shield. A couple more shield things. Slippers of spider climbing. While you wear these light shoes, you can move up, down, and across vertical surfaces and upside down along ceilings while leaving your hands free. You have a climbing speed equal to your walking speed. However, the slippers don't allow you to move this way on a slippery surface, such as one covered by ice or oil. But you have automatic spider climbing. Awesome. Shield of missile attraction is cool. You have resistance to damage from ranged weapon attacks. Awesome. Awesome. I mean, this book is what, like almost 100 pages, I think, of treasure. So that's something to keep in mind. The Sunblade in here sort of looks like a lightsaber a little bit. So I'll show you that just because. Check that out. Kind of looks like a lightsaber. Speaking of the new Star Wars, which I am excited for. Can't wait to see it. Even though everyone wants to keep talking about the lightsaber fiasco, which I think is a little silly. A couple more. Tentacle rod. You've got tridents. So this sounds like an Aquaman special, but the Trident of Fish Command. Yeah. Vorpal sword. Some more wands. Well of Many Worlds, a wind fan. And yeah. So then it talks about sentient magic items, creating sentient magic items. So for example, it talks about the abilities and communication. So communication. A sentient item has some ability to communicate, either by sharing its emotions, broadcasting its thoughts telepathically, or speaking aloud. You can choose how it communicates or roll on the following table. So for example, I'll just pick one. The item can speak, read, and understand one or more languages. Senses. Hearing and normal vision out to 120 feet. That's kind of cool. That's another table. And then one of my favorite pieces of art in the whole game or whole book is right there. I just think that looks really cool. You can't really tell on the webcam, but that's a very vibrant picture. It's got all sorts of the magic items in the chapter, a lot of potions. Actually, it's mainly potions. The tentacles from the octopus were throwing me off, but very awesome picture. Talks about the alignment of the item and then its purpose, and it gives you a table for that. Conflict. For example, the item insists on being carried or worn at all times. The item demands that its wielder dispose of anything the item finds repugnant. The item demands that its wielder pursue the item's goals to the exclusion of all other goals. And the item demands to be given to someone else. So various things you can do with an item like this. And then it gives you some examples. And then another table for one of the items. Goes into artifacts, artifact properties, more tables for magic items, destroying artifacts, sample artifacts, gives you a couple of those, a couple books, for example. So the Book of Vile Darkness, which I know a lot of people know about. In this section is where you find the Eye and Hand of Vecna. And then it talks a couple more items, which has quite a few. Then it goes into other rewards. This section, I had a discussion the other day about skills and things like that with somebody. Go to rpgjuice.com and find my blog post about when did the game become about rules and not, or more about the rules or something like that, or system. I think that's the name of the blog post. But anyways, in this section, it basically says you can teach skills. Player's Handbook does not. This one does. But anyways, in here, it says a few different things. You can get blessings from gods and things like that. All sorts of different blessings, basically. You can get charms, charm of animal conjuring, charm of the slayer, so on. Marks of prestige. You can get letters of recommendation, medals. Maybe the king gives you a medal for serving, doing some great things. Parcels of land, other special favors, special rights. You're given a stronghold, titles, and then training is one of them. Training. Character gains proficiency in a skill. Character gains a feat. Character gains inspiration. Alternatives to epic boons, and this is kind of like the human variant feat, so you can increase one ability score by 2 or 2 ability scores by 1, and ability scores can now be increased above 20 up to a max of 30. So this is how you would handle things after level 20, by the way. This whole section is. And you would get a new feat from those. Subject to DM approval. Goes even further into epic boons. And these are like, they're like feats, but they're more specialized. So for example, Boon of Speed, your walking speed increases by 30 feet. In addition, you can use a bonus action to take the dash or disengage action. Once you do so, you can't do so again until you finish a short rest. So you can always walk the extra 30 feet, but then the bonus action is once per day, or once per short rest. But there's some cool things in there. Oh, here's a good one. Boon of Peerless Aim. You can give yourself a plus 20 bonus to a ranged attack roll you make. Once you use this boon, you can't use it again until you finish a short rest. Plus 20. You're going to hit. It's like an auto hit. Unless you roll a 1. So, anyways, lots of awesome stuff right there. So far, that is, again, a fantastic chapter. This is the chapter everyone wanted. You know, you wanted a lot of magic items. This gives you magic items. You wanted, you know, tables. It gives you tables for magic items. It gives you how to create a magic item in a sense in the beginning. It gives you extra awards past level 20, which you could even in your games do this earlier in the game. You know, it's up to you as a dungeon master. Artifacts, all sorts of things. So, like I said, great chapter. I am so far loving this Dungeon Master Guide, and you know, I couldn't recommend it more. We're still a few days before the official release of the book in all stores and through Amazon. So, yeah, I mean, go pick it up if you're playing or running 5th edition. It's a great game. And this book is really good. It's getting better as I read it. I still have gripes about certain things I've said in certain chapters. And I'm sure in some of the upcoming chapters, you'll see some more of mine, because I know I have a couple coming up too that I've skimmed and didn't like certain things. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel so you can see more of these chapter reviews. I also have a playlist for this right now, so if you want to go back and watch the previous chapters, go ahead. And be sure to follow me on Twitter Facebook. And if you're not watching this on YouTube, go to my YouTube channel. It's Tabletop Gaming with Juice. And yeah, rpgjuice.com. It's my website. Thank you very much. Have a great day.